to my party. We're just getting started. A life is a dream or a nightmare scar.
Good morning, everybody. Hopefully you guys had a great weekend. If this looks like this is me, this isn't. This is not live. This is Memorex. If you're old enough to know what that is, good stuff. I'm pre-recording this because as we speak, as this video is actually playing right now, I am on my way to the property in North Carolina to take care of a few things down there that need to be taken care of. But I didn't want to leave you guys hanging with the live stream, so I decided, hey, let's do this. Let's do it like we would normally do it, but let's just set it up so they have what they need and I can go do what I need and so on and so forth. Now, it's not as you know what? Let's just make it as interactive. Shut up, phone. Let's make it as interactive as a live stream. And do me a favor, guys. Check in like you normally do. Put stuff in the comments, and we'll do all the same stuff that we normally do. So with that said, obviously, this probably won't last an hour like my normal live streams do, but I think it'll have all of the things that it normally has inside of it. So as you can tell by the thumbnail, what we're going to be talking about today is, the 10 realistic things that you can expect, if a nuclear attack actually happened. But oddly enough, I actually have another stream that's going to be coming out tomorrow morning that's going to be talking about what we can expect from a government response. Now, obviously, some of this is speculative, but the reality is that there are certain things that we can expect that are very realistic and very to the point. So getting right into it, guys, the very first thing that we can expect is immediate destruction and casualties. The initial explosion would cause massive destruction within a radius of several miles, leading to significant casualties from the blast, the heat, the radiation, buildings, infrastructure, and anything within the immediate blast zone would be obliterated. People near the epicenter would suffer severe burns, injuries, and likely instant death. Emergency response would be overwhelmed with limited capacity to help the injured. The initial death toll could be in the tens or hundreds of thousands. Now, as usual, three major things to think about when we talk about this category. And as usual, guys, do me a favor, put stuff in the comments. It'll be more for for you guys to communicate right now, as well as for the replay crew that watch these videos later, these live streams later. The three major components to think about are the blast radius. The blast radius could extend several miles, causing widespread damage. The next thing would be severe burns and injuries, that would occur instantly near the epicenter. Lastly, the emergency services would be overwhelmed and unable to respond effectively. There would just be, the standard 911 would not be able to handle what is going on. In fact, that system would be 100% overloaded. They say, get out of the blast area. Yeah, if you survive, if you're not burnt to a crisp, if you're not turned into a crispy critter fried to a fence trying to escape, hell's breath, that is coming at you from this explosion. I may put a link in the the overhead here on the YouTube side to my what actually happens during a nuclear explosion. But we'll see what happens. I'm kind of short for time today. Today is Sunday. I'm actually setting this up for you guys so you actually have your Monday live stream. Let's see here. The next thing that we need to talk about is, radiation fallout. Radioactive particles that would spread over a wide area, posing serious health risks. Fallout would contaminate the environment, making it hazardous to remain outdoors. Exposure could lead to acute radiation sickness, characterized by nausea, vomiting, and fatigue. Long-term health effects, such as cancer or genetic mutations, would be a major concern. No one's going to turn into a superhero. Protective measures like staying indoors and using protective gear would be crucial. And as usual, the three major components to think about when we talk about this category is the fact that fallout would contaminate air, water, and soil, spreading hazardous radiation. Also, acute radiation sickness, which obviously the symptoms include nausea, vomiting, and fatigue. And long-term health risks include cancer and genetic mutations. Now, the big thing is the acute radiation sickness. If you manage to survive the blast, if you were not burned to death and you escaped somehow, and but the radioactive cloud of fallout just happened to blow your way, you ran in the wrong direction, then you can expect all of these symptoms. And the thing is radiation poisoning is basically permanent. And most people die from radiation poisoning. Some recover, don't get me wrong. It really has a lot to do with the amount of exposure that you do have. There you can actually buy these little diode meters that you can carry around with you. If they like turn a color, or if they make a noise, obviously the more money you put into it, the more hyperactive the gadget is in keeping you warned. Then you're going to have a greater level of survivability. Now, do I recommend these things? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, if I had a kit, I might buy one, but that's really up to you guys. As usual, put something in the comments so that the replay crew can see what you guys are saying, and remember that what you say actually does make a difference. Okay, let's see here. Number 3, infrastructure collapse. Critical infrastructure such as power grids, communication networks, water supply. Oh, and whether we're really live or not, the yawn is still real. Great. Let's see. Critical infrastructure such as power grids, communication networks, water supply, and transportation systems would likely be severely damaged or destroyed. This is a given. This would result in widespread blackouts and loss of communication. Access to clean water and sanitation would be compromised, leading to public health issues. Transportation disruptions would hinder evacuation and delivery of essential supplies. The Walmart trucks will stop. Rebuilding infrastructure would take years and substantial resources. Now, as usual, the 3 major components to think about are widespread blackouts and communication failures would occur. Yes, there would be no power in that area, and your cell phones would all stop. Police and fire would have no access to communications to coordinate any form of rescue whatsoever. They literally will probably be lucky if they can get in their cars and go home. Access to clean water and sanitation would be severely compromised. Yes, this is one of the reasons that, remember, what are the 3 things? Water, food, and security, guys. Number 1 thing is obviously going to be water. 3, you will die or want to die. Where are we at here? Transportation disruptions would impede evacuation and supply delivery, regardless of your whatever your evacuation route or your escape route that you have. Oh, there's another one. Let's just push that one down. A little bit of black jet fuel. Transportation disruptions would impede evacuation and supply delivery, which we just read a second ago, before the mighty yawn. And that means that your escape routes that you have planned, your primary, alternate, secondary, tertiary, whatever you want to call it, would be moot. So something to think about. All right, let's see here. Mass evacuations and displacement. People in affected and surrounding areas would need to evacuate, leading to large-scale displacement and the establishment of emergency shelters. This would result in overcrowded and under-resourced shelters. Evacuation routes could be blocked or hazardous due to damage and fallout. Many would face long-term displacement and uncertain futures. Coordination of evacuation efforts would be challenging. And the 3 things to think about that in that category would be overcrowded and under-resourced shelters would be a reality. Yes, where is your shelter at? I'm still in the process of getting with my local post office because I just know in my gut there used to be a yellow and black sign. Yellow and black sign up on the post office that look just like that. But because they have a kick-ass basement, I want to go check out their basement. I'm going to video it for all the members. All right, so evacuation routes could be blocked or hazardous. That's a given. And long-term displacement would lead to uncertain futures for many. So long-term displacement, like guys, you had if you need a word for it, you had to bug out. And where did you go? Well, you're not coming back for a while. Long-term, yeah, depending on yield, ordnance, radiation, contamination, all sorts of a myriad of features and facts that will keep you out of a said area for a specific period of time. So maybe have a plan to not ever go back if your major prep is to prepare for a nuclear holocaust. All right. And I didn't change that back. So you know what? We're going to roll with this right now. Medical emergencies. Hospitals and medical facilities would be overwhelmed by the number of injuries and radiation affected individuals. And resources like medicines and medical supplies would quickly run out. The healthcare system would struggle to provide adequate care. Medical staff would face difficult decisions on prioritizing treatment. Yes, they would literally come in. If you guys don't know anything about mass casualty events, you might want to do some research because they literally have a system that basically says that guy is going to die. I can spend no time on him. I have to work on the people who have a chance of living. Yeah. Medical staff would face difficult decisions on prioritizing treatment, which is what I just said. There would be a dire need for additional medical personnel and supplies. Long-term healthcare needs would increase due to radiation exposure. Now, 3 things to think about with that one are medical facilities would be overwhelmed and casualties and radiation victims. Yes, they obviously a nuclear weapon just went off. Yeah, they would be overwhelmed with those that are the dead and dying. Be honest with you, resources like medicines and supplied would quickly deplete. Yes, because every hospital that wasn't leveled everybody would be trying to get in there. It wouldn't even be an ambulance issue. It would just be everybody showing up in their Toyota Supras and hatchbacks going, please help my friend or whatever. Additional medical personnel and supplies would be desperately needed. Yes. Many people would probably have to start helping the hospitals. You would probably start living there, to be honest with you, which may not be a bad gig. The only problem is you could be contaminated yourself, not in a chemical way, but there is residual. There is a possibility of a residual secondary contact contamination with radioactive fallout. So something to think about. Okay, guys. And as this has pre-recorded, obviously it's not live, it's Memorex. We're going to go and throw in we're going to pay some bills real quick, guys. Let's go ahead and do that real quick.
All right, you slackers, listen up. Did you know that we actually have a shoot-no-shoot expert who's going to be speaking at Prep Stock? He's one of our lecturers, and he's going to tell us all about how to do the things that we're supposed to be doing lawfully with our firearms, situations, and things of that nature. So if you have got your tickets for Prep Stock 2024, Nebo, North Carolina, 12th through the 13th of October this year, the sky is not gonna fall. You're gonna survive. The world will continue to spin. Go get them now. Link in the description.
Okay, so we're back, and number 6, food and water shortages. Oh no, that would never happen during a nuclear attack, but yes, it would. Contamination of water sources and agricultural land would lead to shortages of safe drinking water and food, exacerbating the humanitarian crisis. Radiation would render crops and livestock unsafe for consumption. Supply chains would be disrupted, limiting access to essentials. People would rely on emergency rations, which, where would those come from? Let's see. Which would be limited. Malnutrition and dehydration would become serious concerns. Yeah. water, food, security. Now, when we dig into those three things that we always pull from each one of these categories, water sources and agricultural land would be contaminated by radiation. Crops and livestock would be unsafe for consumption. Disrupted supply chains would limit access to essentials. This all sounds very, very realistic in a very, very realistic world, and we should probably be preparing for this kind of thing. I think. Yes, I think. All right, let's go and move on to number 7. Civil unrest and panic. The chaos and fear following the attack could lead to civil unrest. Could, you mean could, you mean will lead to civil unrest. Looting and violence as people struggle to survive and access scarce resources. Law enforcement would be stretched thin, struggling to maintain order. Communities would experience a breakdown of social norms. Desperation could drive people to commit acts of violence. Cooperation and mutual aid would be essential for maintaining peace. And the three things that I drew from this was that law enforcement would struggle to maintain order amid chaos. This is a very generic statement, and it is because if you're a law enforcement officer and a nuclear weapon just went off, and you're probably not thinking about anybody but your family, because one, you're lucky if your car is still working, or your cruiser, or whatever you want to call it. Your damn radio is not going to be working. Your cell phone's not going to be working. The only thing you're going to be thinking about is your family. You're not going to be thinking about, well, we got to set up this perimeter. We got to do some law enforcement. That is not what you're going to be thinking about if you're a law enforcement officer and a nuclear weapon goes off. You're going to be thinking about your family. The next thing is communities would face a breakdown of social norms. Yes, eventually they would. In the beginning, they would probably come together, but eventually they would probably fall apart unless they had already established some form of community guidelines, organizations, mags, things like that. And desperation could lead to increased violence and looting, yes, in the cities. But I can tell you that that kind of thing also happens in rural areas. Virginia Pappy's definitely omnipresent right now. I can feel it. Feel it in my bones. All right, so let's look at economic collapse, because that would eventually come depending on the level of strike or attack. If they're willing to do this kind of damage, they probably didn't do it just to one place, because they know it's coming back at them. Anyway. Economic collapse. The immediate and long-term economic impact would be severe, with loss of infrastructure, workforce, and confidence leading to a potential collapse of local and national economies. Businesses would be destroyed and unemployment would skyrocket. The cost of rebuilding would be astronomical. Economic activities would halt, affecting livelihoods. Government resources would be strained, impacting public services. Let's go ahead and push that over. Boom. Now, the three major things that you need to pull from an economic collapse that would be caused by a nuclear attack would be destruction of businesses, and high unemployment rates would occur. Yeah, exactly. Businesses go down, don't come to work because the work doesn't exist anymore. Yeah, it's going to be a problem. But I think money would be the least of your worries. Rebuilding costs could be astronomical. They will be astronomical. They will strain financial resources. And economic activities would halt, affecting livelihoods. That's right. The business is gone. There's no money to be made. There's no money to be spent. The grocery store, go kaboom. All right, let's see here. Long-term environmental damage. The environment would suffer from radiation contamination, making areas uninhabitable for years, possibly even decades. It really depends on what type of strike it is. Wildlife and ecosystems could be severely affected. Cleanup efforts would be costly and time-consuming. Contaminated areas would pose an ongoing health risk. The ecological balance would be disrupted, and it's going to impact that biodiversity that we see in ecology. So, and those are some big words, but there's three main points to pull from that. Radiation contamination would make areas uninhabitable for long periods of time. How long? It really depends on the type of weapon used. Wildlife and ecosystems would be severely impacted. Yeah, more than likely, you're going to have some radioactive deer running all over the place like you're inside of a crazy video game. You can't eat them. You just have to wait for them to die and decay. And then obviously cleanup efforts would be costly and time consuming. Yes, we would have to clean up the mess caused by this nuclear weapon. All right. And then the last thing is psychological trauma. Now, we don't think about this, but if you've ever been someplace where there's a lot of death, like it's everywhere, then you'll know what I'm talking about. But most people won't. So survivors would experience significant psychological trauma, including PTSD, anxiety, and depression due to the loss of loved ones, homes, and the drastic change in their way of life. Mental health services would be overwhelmed. They wouldn't exist. We'll talk about that in a minute. Social support systems would be crucial in aiding recovery. That would be community. The trauma could lead to long-term mental health issues. Community resilience and support would play a vital role in healing. Now, the three things that you should take from what I just said are PTSD, anxiety, and depression would be common among the survivors. There's what they call survivor remorse, at the very least. The next thing is mental health services would be overwhelmed by the demand. Yeah, well, if a nuclear weapon goes off, then boom, there may or may not be any mental health services available, period, to help people. And obviously, the social support system would be essential for recovering and resilience, which would mean community. Now, the big thing is to be aware of these potential outcomes, because just being aware can help in planning and preparation to increase the chances of survival, if such a catastrophic event actually happened. All right. I'm not sure how long this has been. It's probably the shortest live stream you guys have ever seen, but it's packed full of information. I hope that you guys got something out of it. As usual, don't forget, guys, prepstock.net. If you want your tickets, get in there and get them now. The world is not going to end because of, an election that is actually happening after Prepstock. So, yeah, get in there, guys. Get in there. There's lots of opportunities to camp, hang out, and lots of free gifts. You guys are going to be seeing the videos coming out. You probably already saw a couple of them. All right, guys, as usual, hit the thumbs up button on the way out. If you have not subscribed, please do so now. I'm here Monday through Friday, 9 to 10 normally. And stay safe. Have a great day, and I'll see you when I see you. Bye-bye.